100 Million Comic Book Readers by the Comic Shaman. Every comic book is a drop in a river that flows back through time for hardly a century and into an uncertain future through a much diminished present. In their history, comic books have seen many changes, but at root, the whole idea is a financial transaction. Any quality or indeed excellence is incidental to the process of creating and publishing a comic book in the current culture. Back in the depths of the Great Depression, Max Gaines envisioned a simple product he could sell shitloads of for $0.10 a piece, and comic books were born about 1933. It was years before anyone tried to produce new material for a comic book, and years again before anything you could call good appeared. If you can call Superman good, but the Man of Steel sold action comics in numbers unseen in an industry selling a lot of product already, and publishers began to cultivate talent as they could, and titles in their hundreds and comic books in the millions entered popular culture as Dada disposable art. Collecting comic books was discouraged as detrimental to new product sales, and second-hand sales were verboten. Comic books were here today and gone tomorrow, never to be seen again, except by chance or great good fortune. Comic book racks were ubiquitous in newsstands, candy stores, cigar shops, at airports, bus, and train stations all across the country, and available for one thin dime. People of every description saw comic books all the time, and millions bought them every week to kill an hour in those pre-TV days of the war and post-war years of comic books' heyday. From the very beginning, a steady ratio of 25 stinkers to one good transcendent comic book had been published industry-wide. For a dime, people had fairly low expectations, and the publishers realized this and usually cranked out more of whatever sold last month. By 1946, the overall quality of the industry's output had raised several notches above wartime product on average, with pioneering individual creators standing out by exploring and expanding the young media's form. Siegel and Schuster, Will Eisner, Lou Fine, and Jack Kirby all broke new ground for others who joined the flow of the comic book river, producing a stream of product reaching to this very week. Many are called to create comic books, but precious few do them very well, with the result then that the bulk of comic books published are of workmanlike quality at best, and typically awful by any discriminating standards. It's perfectly possible to buy a different comic book every day for a year and never read a good one, and many did so for decades until the dynamic and economics of the industry shifted with costs and public tastes until by 1990 nearly all new comic book sales were through dedicated comic book shops, and at a cost more than 20 times higher than the original dime price. The joy of reading and collecting comic book art is in discovering that tiny fraction of transcendent comic books that consistently find their way into print. This short list is different for everyone, and everyone who reads comic books will choose some few and reject the majority. Reading comic books is only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface is their object quality. That moves millions to save them and collect them. Collections are as varied and diverse as the people who accumulate them, and they bring their owners certain satisfactions that exceed their cost and bulk of storage. These people are evenly flung among the population at large, young and old, rich and poor, educated and simple, lazy and industrious. All kinds read comic books for their own reasons, but they're spread thinly around the country and points around the globe.
Listen to your woman, but not closely.